Thank you. All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
We will now move on to our study portion of the meeting for school redesign. I would like to welcome Ms. Amy Kwan to introduce our presenters.
Good afternoon, Board President Guerrero, Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, and the greater AUHSD community. My name's Amy Kwan. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services here in AUHSD, and I have a team that will be able to share with you what redesign is in AUHSD. We have Carlos Hernandez, Executive Director of Culture and Engagement. We have Principal of Anaheim High School, Ruben Cairos. Principals at Orangeview Western, Lorena Moreno and Bendy Crawford, and principal at Sycamore Junior High School, Nancy Cortez, and principal at Cypress High School, Jennifer Brown. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about redesign in AUHSD. First, I'd like to bring us down a little bit of memory lane in AUHSD and ground us in the idea that the term redesign is not anything new. It is not a program layered on top of other work. What it is AUHSD's learning journey made coherent. AUHSD has always evolved in its thinking and its services and how it responds to students. And what has changed is this term called redesign is becoming nationally and globally recognized as a term that is now being used to describe the kind of systems transformation AUHSD has been engaged in for many years. This presentation shows how our work aligns. And so in this first slide, I want to show you our evolution of thinking in AUHSD. First, we have the Anaheim Collaborative Pledge, which helped us prepare for post-secondary options with our higher ed partners, our business partners, and our community partners. It helped us think about our instructional drivers like the 5 C's, and that converged into our career preparedness systems framework, which is now in the pursuit of the 5 C's, technical skills, and youth voice and purpose. Our thinking also evolved in the LCAP commitments and recommendations on how we will execute on these drivers to ensure that all students means all students. The California Standards for the Teaching Profession is what guides us in how we continue to refine and prepare and develop our teachers in service of our students. And then you might see up there our community schools approach. And that's the sustaining part of our evolution at this point. Those terms are terms that show our evolution of thinking and how we've grown over time. Amplified through the community schools approach is what we see in the middle, and the middle is our equity transformation cycle. Right now, the redesign process sits squarely in our equity transformation cycle. It's our practice as a district where we listen deeply to those closest to the experience, uncovering patterns and barriers, reimagining what's possible for our students, and then having the courage to move. This cycle moves forwards and backwards continuously, from listening to uncovering to reimagining to maybe going back to listening and uncovering. Sometimes we might move, and sometimes we might have to go back to deeply listen. That is part of our equity transformation cycle. If redesign is about systems, then collaborative leadership is about how we lead those systems. Redesign does not happen to be an initiative on its own. It is because the people in the system chose to lead and learn differently. Collaborative leadership builds professional learning, trust, and shared responsibility. It moves us from isolation to shared practices, from compliance to inquiry, and from silos to coherence. In AUHSD, our system has always been that we're willing to say, we can improve, we can do better, and we will listen more deeply. The work is very messy. And here we might have our principals here to share that it is messy, it is scary, but it is well worth it. So when collaborative leadership is grounded in a whole child approach, everybody wins. So why adopt the term redesign? Founded in 2015, the Learning Policy Institute has helped elevate and define the term redesign on a national and global level. Founded by Linda Darling Hammond, current president of the California State Board of Education, LPI conducts independent, high-quality research focused on advancing equitable and empowering learning for every child. Through its Center for School and Systems Redesign, LPI examines how educational systems must evolve to meet the needs of young people in a rapidly changing world. Their work helps educators and policymakers apply what we now know and help students grow and learn to build meaningful learning and caring communities. In their executive report, which you'll have access to, it's big, but there's a QR code at the end of this presentation that will give you direct access to the executive report. The executive report on redesign shares that the current public education system was largely built on and in pursuit of a factory model system. That model emphasized standardization, efficiency, and sorting students. It was not designed for what is now known as truly preparing students for college, career, and purposeful and meaningful lives. And that is a system built on personalization, deeper learning, and equity. Making that distinction, redesign is not about abandoning the entire system. It's about rethinking structures so that it reflects what we now know about learning, development, and opportunity. And when we look at AUH's journey, we see that that's exactly what we've been doing as a system here. It's redesign, though, doesn't just take place in the classroom or at the school site. It also takes a look at the entire system, which may include the district office and the greater community and how we engage with the greater community. For many years, districts across the country, including ours, have organized in ways that make sense for a past era. Departmentalizing, operationalizing separately, and decisions made in parallel. If we want schools where students are known, where learning is deeper, and where equity is real, then the district office may have to change the way decisions are made and resources are allocated. Personnel, HR, professional learning, curriculum, instruction, evaluation, operations, transportation, all moving in the same direction, but nimble enough to meet the needs and assets of the community at the moment. It is how we staff schools. It's how we build capacity, how we professionally learn and develop individually and as a system, and how we allocate resources. Because coherence at the site level requires this type of coherence at the district level. Redesign is not just about changing schedules or structures, it is transforming how we work together. And that is the work that we're committed to doing and reflects the journey that AUHSD has been on. So in this next slide, I recognize that there's a lot of words, but you have a timeline in front of you, and there's also a QR code to this timeline at the end of this presentation. In LPI's executive report on redesign, it outlines 10 elements of redesigned schools, and what we see is nothing unfamiliar. Number 1, positive developmental relationships, safe, inclusive school climate, culturally responsive and sustaining teaching, deeper learning curriculum, student-centered pedagogy, authentic assessment, well-prepared and well-supported teachers, authentic family engagement, community connections and integrated student supports, and shared decision-making and leadership. There's nothing unfamiliar in those 10 elements. In fact, we see ourselves. They allow us to reflect on the work that we've been building for more than 15 years, which you'll be able to see outlined in the timeline. We see elements of our pledge, our 5 Cs, our capstone, our community schools, our AIM initiatives, the Anaheim Collaborative, and much more. Redesign gives language and coherence to what we've been doing here in AUHSD. What is additionally affirming is in LPI's report, they take the 10 elements and they distill them down to 3 themes. They align around 3 core themes of challenging and engaging instruction that deepen learning, family and community engagement and integrated supports, and relationship-centered learning environments. Those 3 elements align quite nicely to our LCAP goals. LCAP goal number 1, that centers deeper learning. LCAP goal number 2, that centers engagement and integrated supports with our parents and community. And LCAP goal number 3, belonging, relationships, and school climate. It affirms the direction that we've been going in, and our connection with LPI allows us to deepen that alignment, learning alongside like-minded districts and contributing to conversations that shape the future of AUHSD and possibly secondary education in California, which Carlos Hernandez will be able to share with you a little bit deeper about what that network will be able to support AUHSD in doing for ourselves, but also for public education in California. So the question becomes, if we've already committed to these priorities in AUHSD, what does redesign look like as we move forward? In AUHSD, redesign, it means creating the intentional space for our school site teams to reflect, align, and courageously shape the next steps of their own school communities in advancing and amplifying our LCAP goals and our instructional drivers here in AUHSD. It's time for the adults to examine their systems, rethink structures, and make a deeper commitment to whole child. In 2024, Orangeview and Western engaged in a formal redesign process to reimagine their consolidation. They took out extra time in the school year to meet as a team with partners in the redesign work and choosing to see change as an opportunity to build something stronger and more coherent rather than just consolidating their 2 campuses. In 2025, we had an opportunity to expand that opportunity to Sycamore, Anaheim, and the Cypress community and engage their school leadership teams in the same redesign process. They are all thinking about the routines, structures, and expectations on their campuses that may unintentionally work against their LCAP goals and or in advancement of CPSF, and taking the courage to remove those barriers and amplify the benefits for our students. So across our sites, 3 primary structural things have emerged. In our redesign process at our sites, you may hear some of our school sites talking about different bell schedules, talking about or deepening or expanding or thinking around advisory periods, and talking about and deepening our expansion of what may be called houses or small learning communities or cross-curricular PTAs. So I'll take some time to go over what each of those look like. So bell schedules are not just operational decisions. They're instructional design decisions. They can shape how relationships are built. They can shape how collaboration takes place in the school day. And they can shape where learning feels rushed or how they can go deep. At its core, this slide reflects a simple idea that values shape structure and structure can shape outcomes. So in our strategic priority of deeper learning and stronger relationships, the structure can amplify those priorities by having the things like advisory, which are these time periods that are no longer connected to a specific content area. So at the secondary level, we have our periods connected to period 1, might be a specific content area. Period 2, another content area, so on and so forth. So advisory periods are these flexible times not connected to a specific content area that allows the school staff to engage with the students in meaningful ways. You'll see things that having block periods will allow longer times to create for inquiry, performance tasks, discussion, and feedback. You'll see times dedicated specifically for teacher collaboration in the form of common conference periods or common release periods. That's not new to AUHSD. It's a structure that we employed when we're rolling out the capstone to give common release periods to certain SLT members to develop that. But you may also see the immersion of 2 late starts, which is something OV Western embarked on this year. So within those types of bell schedules, you may see changes in the number of periods or different types of block schedules. And so here are a couple of the types of bell schedules you may hear emerging from our learning. For example, we have a 4x4 block schedule. That's when students take 4 courses in the fall and 4 courses in the spring, as opposed to a traditional comp site high school, which is 6 periods throughout the whole year, every day for the whole year. In the 4x4 block schedule, each course runs for 1 semester with more time so that a full year's worth of credit is completed in that 1 semester. Classes are about 90 minutes each day, so students see the same class every day for that semester. This allows for sustained focus and deeper engagement where the year-long course is completed within 1 semester, providing both intensity and continuity. In this model, students and teachers focus on fewer courses at one time, but those courses conclude within the 1 semester. Another option is a modified block or an A-B rotating schedule. In this model, courses are spread out across the full year, with students attending alternating classes every other day, where periods are still typically about 90 minutes, but the content will change every other day, as opposed to the 4x4 block in which the content is the same content every day. So students do not see the same daily class, but they complete a year-long course over a full year-long academic year. We are also seeing interest in expanding the traditional 6-period comprehensive high school and/or junior high from 6 to 7 periods to maybe 8 periods. This allows for a broader course of study, additional electives, and/or dedicated time for specific types of periods such as advisory or intervention. These examples illustrate how schools are examining the bell schedule not for the sake of change, but to intentionally amplify strategic outcomes like deeper learning, teacher collaboration, or a broader course of study. Advisory is another clear example of a structure reflecting our values. Its purpose is to create intentional time for community building, intervention, academic monitoring, social and emotional support, and/or college and career development. It's structured time not tied to a specific content area, but dedicated to fulfilling our commitment to a whole child approach. At its core, advisory reflects the simple equation: relationships plus intentional support and time equals students who are known, supported, and ready to thrive. It strengthens relationships and belonging, whole child supports. It could be check-in time, it could be college and career planning, it could be conflict resolution, or individual time to make up work or goal set. Importantly, the purpose and content of advisory are determined at the school site level. School leadership teams design advisory to meet the unique needs of their students and amplify the strengths of their community. So advisory is how we can prioritize time and structure to operationalize relationship-centered learning environments every single day. The last type of change you might hear is reflective in that our vision, mission, and core values is primarily delivered through instruction. So we pack a lot in one PTA here in AUHSD. However, one PTA in every single class also can create a barrier for students accessing the PTA content. So having cross-curricular PTAs is a way to reduce redundancy for a student and deepen knowledge and skills across subjects, bless you, rather than siloed within each subject. When performance task assessments are aligned across courses, students are not repeating disconnected assignments that assess the same skills in isolation. Instead, they're applying the same core skills of critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, and character and compassion in different contexts across the discipline in one assignment. When teachers integrate their work and design shared PTAs, students can engage in one meaningful, comprehensive project that counts across multiple classes. Again, rather than juggling the multiple separate projects, they experience one deeper, more coherent learning experience. And that depth matters. When students can engage in that level of depth, they're spending more time revising, reflecting, and improving. They see connections across subjects, and they understand how learning transfers. There's also a strong community benefit in doing houses and cross-curricular PTAs. When the same teachers share the same group of students, collaboration becomes more intentional. Teachers can coordinate support, they can align expectations, and they can collectively respond to student needs. And students feel that their teachers are working together and not operating in silos. This reduces fragmentation for students and strengthens coherence in their experience. So thank you for allowing me time for a very quick overview of the redesign work happening here in AUHSD. And I'd like to invite some of our principals to share how the redesign process has impacted their communities. And so first up, I'd like to invite co-principals of Orangeview Western, Bindi Crawford and Lorena Moreno.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Lorena Moreno.
Bindi Crawford.
So being the first school that merged with the feeder pattern, Orangeview and Western, our community felt that it was the perfect opportunity to redesign, and our redesign included parents, staff, board members, community partners, in our redesign committee. That committee, through the visitation of various schools across different parts of the state, decided that it was a perfect opportunity to reimagine the learning and teaching experience for both our students and families. At the core, as Amy mentioned, was teacher collaboration. We realized that it was time to de-silo our teachers from the classroom to really having time during the day to plan together. At Orangeview Western, this looks in two different ways. It's either a common conference, as Ms. Kwan mentioned, or through our double late start. So this year we piloted a second late start on Tuesdays where teachers and teacher teams have an opportunity to collaborate and plan together, whether it's for Kid Talk or advisory. Our other goal was this deeper learning that Ms. Kwan talked about, because now bridging the junior high and the high school, we wanted to continue providing a small feel in a big 7 through 12 school. So one of the things that our redesign committee committed to is the house model, right? So the house model is the cohort model. So students are cohorted. So at Orangeview Western, it's about 190 students with a group of teachers that they have for the core subjects. And they provide exactly what Ms. Kwan mentioned, the small intentionality, a strong sense of connection. They're planning together. They know their students by name and need. So that was very important for us as the redesign committee decided what are some of the tenets that are going to be part of our redesign. And the house model was really important for us, again, because we wanted our students to have that small feel in a big 7 through 12 school.
So that small feel is not something that we wanted just for the transition. We wanted that through and through forever. What we heard from our parents was that they enjoyed having a single person to connect with at the junior high, at the elementary level. We listened to our feeder patterns. We wanted to make sure that as a parent and a student, even though all the resources are amplified at the secondary level, that, like Ms. Moreno said, students feel seen and heard. And when we look at some of our LCAP data, we're starting to see improvements of how students feel already in the first year alone. The second Tuesday late start that we've added that Ms. Kwan referred to allows for our teachers to continue working in groups instead of isolation in their singular content created classroom. So through the master schedule, we did common conferences, teams working together so they had built-in time on any given day to work together, but also specifically on Tuesday to create immediate need advisory lessons. So each advisory lesson is created by that team to meet the needs of students, both long-term, immediate, and to build community. When they're not doing that, we implemented a process called Kid Talk. And so if you're a regular teacher at a traditional factory model school outside of AUHSD, and I teach English, you're gonna have to figure out, maybe I see somebody in passing, I'm gonna have to go ask them about student A. In this model, we're trying to connect the dots and build that time to reframe what the teacher's role is and how we provide those opportunities. So the Bell schedule is not the strategy, the Bell schedule is the conduit for how we improve the strategy. It is not the thing that we're doing, it's the thing that allows us to do what we wanna do. Redesign at our campus is not just about the changing of the schedules, it's about changing the experience for students that come to our school. It's about getting them to connect to an adult. And I think if I ask you guys, do you remember somebody from your K-12 education and who speaks to you, probably all could name one or two people. Our goal is for every student to be able to name more than that through the 712 experience, through our redesigned experience, because the more connectedness they feel to the campus through whatever activity they're involved in, the more connected and more successful we see them being after they leave our system. We're already seeing parts of that now. The strategies that we've implemented are looking like we will improve our percentage of CT completers by 20% in 3 years. We will improve the number of kids who have access to multiple pathways. We will improve the number of students who have A through G completers in the next year, actually looking at preliminary data. So we're very excited about the opportunities that students at Orangeview Western will now have through our redesign model that will help them propel positively in the future. Oh, and our CLIP by literacy is going to improve as well. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Calleros.
Good afternoon. My name is Ruben Calleros. I'm the principal of Anaheim High School, and I'll be speaking on behalf of Cypress and Sycamore and Anaheim High School in terms of our redesign journey, which has been a little different than the Orangeview Western journey. We not forced to consolidate. We modeling the continuous cycle of improvement. We saw an opportunity for us to really assess our practices, assess if what we're trying to achieve with our students is actually hitting home and landing home. We knew what our metrics were in terms of our lagging indicators, our graduation rate, A through G rate, the things that we know are available in the dashboard. So we already knew that piece for our schools. But for us, this was an opportunity for us to dig deeper in terms of, okay, where are the gaps in terms of really achieving learning for all students? And we identified several gaps through this process, and Amy mentioned it. The equity transformation cycle started with listening, deeply listening, and we had the opportunity, us and Sycamore and Cypress will get that opportunity as well, to really do a massive needs and assets assessment years ago when we started our community school strategy, right? And really identifying what is it that our school does well and what is it that our school doesn't do so well, and what are the challenges that our families are facing. And it was more based on not perceived needs, but the needs that our community and our students were telling us in terms of how they were navigating and experiencing our environment. So we started this redesign journey long before this process. So this opportunity came and we jumped at it because it was an organic process through multiple stakeholders, really looking at what is it that we're trying to achieve And do our current structures, do our current systems, do the practices that we employ in the classroom achieving that end, right? So I think for us, it's been a fluid process, modeling that equity transformation cycle. So because it's fluid and it's really rooted at the site, every site's at different stages and levels of it, right? At Anaheim High School, we've been doing needs analysis assessments for the past 6 years. So we have a very clear understanding of what our students are experiencing and what they're not experiencing, right? For Cypress, I know they're still really grappling with that data and uncovering, because you have to really uncover before you could actually reimagine, which is redesign. We prefer the reimagining term, right? It's reimagining our practices. And for Sycamore, they're landing on some of the similar things that we're looking at: cross-curricular teams, Kid Talk, advisory, things that enhance the instruction in the classroom. For us at Anaheim High School, along with cross-curricular teams, like Ms. Kwan mentioned, we're also landing on an advisory. One of the things that we uncovered, despite everything that we've tried to build those deeper connections with our students, when we gave a self-assessment of what we were doing, our teachers took a self-assessment of what we thought we were doing, and then we gave our students, about 800 of them, a self-assessment. We identified about almost 300 students that did not feel connected to one single adult on campus. And that was very similar to what Sycamore looked at. So with that, and when we saw the students that were connected, we brought them in. We conducted community voice circles to really have an organic process where we can learn more. Why are you feeling connected? What are you involved in that makes you feel connected? What we identified is, as we know, right, students in band and DLA and these programs that create that adult connection are actually working, but what about those other students? So for us, it's creating that actual structure and more intentional structure for meaningful connections. And that's where advisory comes in and where you hear a lot about it. The idea is great. It's the implementation piece that gets messy, right? So in addition to that, we're also exploring at Anaheim High School a block schedule. When we talk about deeper learning, when we talk about teaching depth and breadth and project-based learning, which is really the model of our CPSF and PTAs, how do we really get that in a 55-minute period? It's really hard. So what we got, it wasn't just hearing from our students, it was also hearing from our teachers. What's working well for you? What's not? What are the barriers? What are the challenges? So the ones that are really doing it well, we talk to them, and the themes are always the same in terms of, this is great, but we're exhausted at the end of the day. It's really hard to really engage in deeper learning within the structure. So for us, it's been different, and it should be different because every site is a different living, breathing organism, really. So that's been our journey. And with that, still continuing, with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Carlos Hernandez.
Thank you, Ruben. Good afternoon, Cabinet, the board, and community staff. It's exciting to talk about what we're hearing from our sites. You know, and Amy did a great job of defining what Redesign in has been for the number of years. If you look at that timeline, it's a lot of time and effort and energy, support from our board, policies, practices, procedures that were put in place, a lot of momentum. And where do we go from here? We have an opportunity that came upon us just a few months ago, a year ago, in terms of this request for proposals. Marin County Office of Ed shared with a few of our partners and our district, Inflection being one of our longstanding partners that have been part of our journey for a long time, almost 10 years. And they said, you want in on this redesign that the state is putting out in terms of additional funding, networking of school districts, LEAs, and other nonprofits. And we said, we're all in, let's do it. And so you see there on that slide and on the screen the number of secondary school redesign awardees. And on that list is Redesign Ed. Redesign Ed is the partnership that we and Inflection, along with six other LEAs, putting together a beautiful partnership that we're going to learn from. So on the next slide, you see the 7 different LEAs that are together with Inflection, learning from each other. It's a network of LEAs across the state of California around redesign. And we've done a lot of redesign, and we're going to learn from the other 6 districts. So leading and learning really is the term that we like to use here, because we're definitely leading in what you've heard from our schools, and two examples here, and we're also learning from others, and absolutely lots to learn from the other 6 LEAs. Redesign will help districts move from managing those schools, right, from isolation to leading aligned ecosystems. And you heard that ecosystem that exists at the school level, but also district-wide. And we're going to talk about district office and district level, opportunities that we have. So the world is rapidly changing. We have to change and evolve with the world, and that's what we're doing here, again, with our work around redesign. So Redesign Ed, a little bit to zoom in on the Redesign Ed approach. It's a 2-year pilot. So yay, 2 years, and it says $750,000, and that's shared among 7 LEAs, shared among the inflection. So it'll go back pretty quickly, but the hope and the goal is it's sustainable, and that is what we learn from community schools and the different grants that we earn. Congratulations, this is a 5-year grant. What are you thinking about in terms of sustainability? And that's really what this is about. How do you sustain the work once the 2 years is gone? It's not just at 1 or 2 or 3 schools. How do we share that? How does it impact district office? And so those are the ecosystems and the conditions that we're talking about. And so if you look at the slide, this is what Anaheim and Hillsdale and Wheatland, which are anchor pilots. There's 7 districts, 3 of which are demonstration districts. And so Anaheim Union, specifically zooming in on what's happening at Anaheim High School, we're seeing and we're learning from these demonstration sites. So every student is known and supported. It sounds familiar with what we're doing here, what we've been doing, right? So again, we're leading in that work. How do we know every student by name, by story, right? Learning is redesigned for deeper knowledge and skills. We've done that work through, career preparedness systems framework that, every class, every period. Equitable outcomes as advanced through personalized supports. How do we individualize the support? And how do we differentiate at the site level? Student engagement and learning are measured and shared. We're sharing, absolutely. We're making learning public. Capstone season is almost upon us, and so that's one way that we're making it public. Just in 2 weeks, we're going to see the soapbox speech is one way of demonstrating learning. Again, we're making it public. Again, we're leading in some things, also wanting to learn from others. And sustainable structures ensure long-term impact. How do we sustain the work? Pass the grant, pass the $750,000, pass this and that. We can create those systems, again, being open to the reestablishment. And this is what I want to zoom in on also. There's some transformational practices, and transformation is really all about the community schools approach. How do we transform the way we've been doing business at the schools and also at the district office? How do we reestablish that shared purpose? We know it, we talk about it, we can see it on the slides. Is it really every day, every period? Is it really happening in every classroom? Is it really happening at the district office? That is really how we are going to create that reignition of that shared purpose that we have. How do we reimagine our time and resources? For example, you heard bell schedules. That's a resource. Well, if we reimagine the way we do the bell schedules, is that going to benefit, at the end of the day, the students every day, every period? How do we build professional capacity? Again, that's all about sustainability. Again, learning from the Redesign Ed, learning from the Community Schools Grant. Community School Grant, I know it well, so I talk about this a lot. 80% of the grant is about professional development. It's about capacity building. That is sustainable, right? And so this is also about sustainable practices, again, professional learning. How do we assess what matters? What matters, not just, this is important, right? Not just what we know, what students know, but what they can do, right? Not just what they know, but what can they do with the knowledge and the experiences in and out of the classrooms? What can they do? And that is really creating that college career life, civic engaged life that we want them to do. Strengthening cross-curricular partnerships, that's the work that, again, we're leading perhaps businesses and, that people want to partner. Every day we're getting somebody who says, let's partner. Yep, we have a ton of partnerships. How do we make sure we use that and strengthen that? And again, even internally at the district office. And then learn and share, lead and learn all the time, reflecting around that equity transformation cycle. Deeply listen, uncover, reimagine, and then let's move, and let's try it again. Anaheim High School, I just want to lift them up. The reason why they were selected in the RFP, if you were to share that, there's some good work happening across the sites to zoom in on one school and to lift up a demonstration site statewide. So they exemplify what we believe Anaheim Union, is about: integrating community schooling, small learning communities, street data analysis. You heard what they did with student insights, right? Street level data across student insights, family insights, staff insights. How do we leverage that to learn from it? How do we use AI to uncover and create some themes and to be able to move quickly? And then how do we cultivate that belonging and that purpose and readiness for the next move? Again, graduation rates over the last 7 years. Again, in the RFP, it showed 80% to 97%, and so we're moving there. A through G from 22% to 75%. That's college readiness, for one school. And again, we're learning from. There's also lots of learning that they're still doing, but that's one way that why Anaheim High School was lifted up as a demonstration site. And so excited about that network. Last thing I'll say is just to zoom in on that. Community schools approach is about transforming everything we're doing. And we're zooming in on the district office staff, district office systems. And so how do we create lasting transformation across the 3 divisions, really, right? Business, HR, and Ed division. How do we create district level redesign around structures and policies and resource allocations that support continuous improvement through that equity transformation cycle so that it becomes the way we do business, the way we transform? It's that DNA that we talk about, embedded in leadership practices, accountability. That's really important, monitoring success and adjusting as needed. And then that cross-sector and cross-division partnerships, always centering the student as we move through this opportunity that we have with Redesign Ed, learning from LPI, and absolutely learning from our communities at the school level. Amy, I'll turn it over back to you.
So we wanted to launch you with a student from Anaheim High School who we think says it best. At the end of the day, we want to be taught, not worked. And that is the focus of what we are trying to do in AUHSD and making sure that we're meeting the needs of our students. I have a slide that shares with you the resources that we shared today. Here's the website to the Learning Policy Institute, the QR code to the executive report on redesign by LPI, and then a QR code with the AUHSD Learning Journey timeline where you can take a look at it. So thank you for giving us this time. That concludes our presentation, and we are very much open for questions.
Thank you all for your presentation. I love the ending quote. That should definitely be on a shirt.